In this lesson, I'd like to talk about a mistake that I hear every day, even from advanced speakers. I think it's quite easy to avoid this mistake. You just have to be aware of it, and it makes a big difference. But first, let's have a look at the word order in a typical German sentence. The subject is in the first position. The verb is in the second position, and then comes the object. To refresh your memory, the subject usually performs an action, the verb is the action itself, and the object is affected by the action. I decided to use colors to illustrate the difference between the parts of the sentence in order to make it easier for you to understand what I'm talking about. Ich esse einen Apfel. I eat an apple. Ich esse einen Apfel. Du kaufst ein Buch. You buy a book. Du kaufst ein Buch. You can see that the subject, yellow, is in position number 1 and the verb, red, is in position number 2. That's the important rule, and I repeat, the verb is always in the second position. That's what I would like you to keep in mind. Okay, let's have a look at another sentence. This one does not start with the subject, but with an adverb. And do you see what's happening here? The verb and the subject switched places. Why? Because, according to the rule, the verb has to be in the second position. So the adverb is here in position number 1, the verb in position number 2, then comes the subject, and then the object. Heute esse ich einen Apfel. Today I eat an apple. But what we actually say is, today eat I an apple, with the verb in the second position. The mistake that I'm talking about in this lesson is that many German learners do not switch the subject and the verb when the sentence doesn't start with the subject, and they say, Heute ich esse einen Apfel, in the usual English word order. But unfortunately, that is wrong. Mein kleiner Bruder isst eine Pizza. My little brother eats a pizza. I chose this example to show you that the first position in a sentence doesn't necessarily mean the first word in a sentence, because here the subject is my little brother, mein kleiner Bruder, and it has 3 words. The verb ist is in position number 2. And now let's see what happens when I start the sentence with manchmal, sometimes. Manchmal isst mein kleiner Bruder eine Pizza. Sometimes my little brother eats a pizza. The verb and the subject switched places, so that, according to the rule, the verb stays in the second position in the sentence. Du hast einen Orangensaft getrunken. You drank an orange juice. This is an example using the past tense, and the conjugated verb here is hast. And if we want to emphasize that you drank the orange juice yesterday, we say, Gestern hast du einen Orangensaft getrunken. Yesterday you drank an orange juice. And again, hast and du switch position. Gestern hast du einen Orangensaft getrunken. The same rule is also applied to modal verbs, such as können, which means can or to be able to do something. Ich kann die Berge sehen. I can see the mountains. Normalerweise kann ich die Berge sehen. Usually I can see the mountains. Here the change in the word order is triggered because the sentence starts with usually and not with the subject. Okay, so far we've seen only simple sentences. Now let's have a look at some more complex ones with subordinate clauses. Ich lese ein Buch. I read a book, or I'm reading a book. In German there is no difference. Ich mag Geschichte. Deshalb lese ich ein Buch. I like history, therefore I'm reading a book. You see that In the subordinate clause, the verb and the subject switched places, so that the verb remains in the second position. Ich mag Geschichte, deshalb lese ich ein Buch. Sie geht spazieren. She's going for a walk. Es regnet. Trotzdem geht sie spazieren. It's raining. Nevertheless, she's going for a walk. And again, the same thing happens in the subordinate clause. Geht comes before sie. Es regnet. Trotzdem geht sie spazieren. Du spielst Tennis. Du spielst Basketball. You play tennis. You play basketball. Zuerst spielst du Tennis, dann spielst du Basketball. First you play tennis, then you play basketball. So we connected the two sentences with first and then. These words take the first position, and that's why the verb has to follow immediately in order to stay in the second position. Now, as you know, the exception proves the rule, and that's why I'd like to show you some exceptions. The words aber, but, und, and then, because, are considered position 0. They do not change the word order. Kommt aus London, aber studiert in Zürich. He comes from London, but he studies in Zurich. Sie spielt Gitarre und singt in einer Band. She plays the guitar and he sings in a band. Ich rufe dich an, denn ich möchte mit dir sprechen. I'm calling you because I'd like to talk to you. In all three examples, the word order remains first subject, then verb. And last but not least, I'd like to mention that there is another exception. Some words such as das, that, weil, because, and als, when in the past tense, these words send the verb to the end of the sentence rather than just switching the position with the subject. But that's a topic for another lesson. So basically, the most important insight that I would like you to take from this lesson is that when you don't start a sentence with the subject, you need to change the word order. If you do this, it shows that you're really taking your German seriously.